McDonald's salads, Ritz crackers, Kellogg's cereal. It's been a summer of food recalls. But the CDC says that's not all that strange because bacteria like salmonella thrive in the summer. Well, just take a look at this amazing video. At least 2 people are dead and more than 70 are hurt after this major explosion caused a bridge to collapse in Italy. Carla Reddit is in our First Alert Center right now. Carla, so this was a tanker truck that exploded? Our live team coverage begins now. Allison Orlean and Eric Perry are live in Charlottesville. Kelly Avellino and Jasmine Turner are live in D.C. We're going to start with Kelly. Did you hear me gasp? 105? All right, well, speaking of extreme weather, rain, no biggie, right? Snow, bring it on. The Postal Service is drawing the line, though, at fleas. 18 houses in a neighborhood in Rosemont didn't get their mail. As soon as you got in here, the first thing you did was you revamped these offices. So
that's correct.
84 representatives have signed on to this payday lending bill, yet it's been sitting in your committee since January.
Correct.
Why is it still sitting in your committee? Turnout has been kind of on the low side is what we're hearing around the state today. And if you take a look behind me here, you can see we've actually got some open polls right now. And let me show you the huge line. So like I said, today, right now is a great time. You have until 7 p.m. to come and cast your ballot. Wells Fargo says hundreds of customers lost their homes because of a computer glitch. The issue came to light in a regulatory filing showing that software mistakenly denied about 625 homeowners mortgage modifications. Before all this rain moved into Richmond, hundreds of people flocked to Carytown to enjoy the sights, the sounds, and of course the slices at the beloved Watermelon Festival. The event is in its 35th year. Right now, Bon Secours Richmond Community Hospital is on lockdown after officials say there was a threat of a shooting on campus. We can tell you all visitors, hospital volunteers, and non-essential personnel have safely been removed. Jasmine Turner is live at the hospital. So Jasmine, what are you learning about this threat? But what about here? Many businesses say they're being blindsided by lawsuits because their websites don't work with screen readers used by blind people. You know, I wish I could tell you that there's a huge party, but I think the rain is making people wait as long as they can before they come out today. We were enjoying a nice little break from the rain for a little while, but the rain has just picked up again. But again, it's not cold out here, it's just wet. So just come on out. But shortly, yes, there will be scores of people here along the sidelines. Well, we all know the damage that hail can do to your car, but wow, take a look at this. Windshields were just shattered by baseball-sized hail in Colorado Springs. Yeah, we've actually just gotten a tweet from our crew members, Mark Davis and Jasmine Turner, that they are sheltered in place. They've said that there was more rotation spotted near Hall Street and Speaks Drive. And we're also seeing a tweet right now from Lieutenant Elmore with the Chesterfield Fire saying that the crews there are sheltered in their apparatus, meaning their fire trucks. With the swab of your cheek or a vial of blood, you could discover your chances for developing cancer, Alzheimer's, or diabetes. But our On Your Side investigation reveals not all genetic tests are created equal. Here's what you need to know before you or anyone else goes diving into your DNA. Food deserts are areas where there isn't a grocery store for at least a mile. You can see there are some here in North Richmond, and there are some more here in South Richmond, and right over here in the East End, lots of green. The bill with the Democratic proposal for redistricting is in the Elections Committee, and believe me, there's a lot of back and forth going on still. Now let me bring you up to speed. This first map shows you the 11 districts that a federal court ruled had to be redrawn. Dr. Rich says there are things you can do to help your family make it through. First of all, have some batteries in your flashlight so you don't end up like this. Be sure you're following evacuation orders and advice from officials. Have medication stocked up, a first aid kit. Right now is a first alert weather day across Central Virginia. The storms and wind have been so bad that organizers were actually forced to cancel the Richmond Jazz Festival in just the last hour. So we're going to have more on that in just a moment because we want to go to meteorologist Ross Runner to get an update on these storms. It's been coming down, Ross. Okay, we look forward to it. Thanks, Ross. And as we just mentioned, organizers were forced to cancel the Richmond Jazz Festival because of these storms. Carla Reddit was there, and she has more on this local breaking news. Right now, the group behind last year's rally is in Washington, D.C. for a so-called white civil rights rally. And this comes as thousands of counter-protesters march through the streets of D.C. and groups in Charlottesville rally to honor Heather Heyer. Our live team coverage begins now. Allison Orlean and Eric Perry are live in Charlottesville. Kelly Avellino and Jasmine Turner are live in D.C. We're going to start with Kelly, who is at the Unite the Right rally. Kelly, what's happening there right now? While demonstrations in D.C. got underway, groups walked through the streets of Charlottesville to honor Heather Heyer's memory and reclaim a day once marred by violence. Our team coverage continues now from Charlottesville, where we also have 2 live crews. Absolutely. Thank you, Allison. And many people showed up in Charlottesville, not just to honor those killed last year, but to seek healing and support. Eric Perry continues our live team coverage. Now, Eric, you spent the day attending various events and talking to people about what brought them out. What are they telling you and what are you seeing? We know you well. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you back here at 11. Now, I will tell you, though, it's really interesting. We're seeing turnout overall a bit lower. It tends to be lower for a primary. However, I just got off the phone with the Henrico County voter registrar, and he says in the western half of the county, where that highly contested 7th congressional district is, they're seeing higher turnout. The precincts are reporting 11 to 15% as of 4 o'clock. But in the eastern half of the county, which is not in the 7th district, it's lower. Precincts are reporting anywhere from 1% to 9% voter turnout. When you own a business, you want to be accessible to all people. Often you think about that here and here. But what about here? Many businesses say they're being blindsided by lawsuits because their websites don't work with screen readers used by blind people.
When I use this screen reader, it's telling me the areas.
We asked Marietta Grabowski, who is blind, to show us how her screen reader reads website information to her so she can book rides, get news, or shop online.
Vitamin B complex supplement made in the USA.
If a website isn't formatted to work with a screen reader, a blind person can't use it. Grabowski usually just lets the company know.
The more we let them know it's not accessible, it's to our benefit.
But some other blind people across the country and their attorneys have filed lawsuits. 2,285 lawsuits just last year against banks, hotels, stores, and restaurants since a 2017 court ruling that websites fall under the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Once that case came out, the floodgates opened.
But many of the businesses say they didn't know they weren't in compliance, and some feel it's a shakedown for settlements of often $15,000 to $25,000. Is this a money grab by some of these law firms?
There are some law firms that genuinely want to do the right thing for disabled individuals. Now, that said, in every profession there are always the bad seeds.
Here's why they feel that. See the same name on all these lawsuits? Same story in other states. Piles of lawsuits, often by one visually impaired person and their attorneys. A lawyer with Pacific Trial Attorneys representing the plaintiff in many Virginia cases sent their response. Attack us if you must, but in this battle, the disabled community is on the right side of history. So why not just upgrade their sites? Businesses say the Department of Justice has not issued the legal, technical standards websites should meet.
We respect the disabled community. We believe they should have access. It's just a matter of knowing the rules with which to comply. There's an international code, web content accessibility guidelines. There have been several versions of that, 1.0, 2.0, 2.0 AA.
But advocates for people with disabilities say there are common standards.
This has been the law already for 29 years. So when we hear from folks who might bring up, well, we haven't had time, the question sort of becomes, what have you been doing with the last 29 years?
For now, businesses say they fear more lawsuits, but some visually impaired people say they're being left in the dark. So what can a business do to protect itself and serve the blind community? Attorneys say they advise them to make their websites compatible to the common screen reading standard used in their industry. Robert Gooch IV was a father, a son, a best friend. He served several tours in the Army in Afghanistan. Had he lived, he was scheduled to retire from the Army today. Instead, his family is planning his funeral. These are the last images of Robert Gooch IV, doing what he always did, helping a friend, like Donald Graves, to install a doorbell.
And helped me put up the doorbell alarm about 6:35 and left, came back to get his daughter to go to the movies, and all hell broke loose.
All hell broke loose when Robert and his 13-year-old daughter stopped at this gas station and Robert was shot.
She wanted folks to know that her dad pushed her out of the way, but she didn't leave his side.
Graves says he and Robert were best friends and neighbors, always helping each other out.
We loved each other like brothers. We called each other brothers.
He didn't come over and do stuff because he expected anything. He came over because you were another human being, you had a need.
Robert's father, Robert Gooch III, says Robert was a devoted father of 3.
He loved his kids, adored them.
Who deployed with the Army several times overseas to make sure his kids always had what they needed.
He said, that money, I have everything, but I'm gonna make sure that my kids have everything. That's why he redeployed.
Now the loss of this son, this friend, this father, who gave so much of himself to others, has left a hole that can't be filled.
Rob, man, that was my bro. I don't know what else to say.
But remarkably, they say they're ready to forgive.
There's another family out there that has a son, a brother, a man that's committed a shameless act of violence against another family. And they are hurting too.
Police say Gooch and the suspect, George Bushman, did not know each other. A judge has ordered that Bushman be evaluated by a psychologist to determine if he's competent to stand trial. Meanwhile, the community has raised more than $32,000 on a GoFundMe account for Robert Gooch's family. Heather Sullivan, NBC 12 News.